Please subscribe and press bell icon.
1. But God's eternal laws are kind and break the heart of stone. In which poem do these lines appear? A. Prisoner of Chillon, Byron. B. Ballad of Reading Gaol, Oscar Wilde. C. We Are Seven, Wordsworth. D. None of these.
The video is made
B. Ballad
by
of Reading Gaol, Oscar Wilde.
for Era.
2. The most popular French playwright Jean-Baptiste Poquelin is known as blank. A. Corneille. B. Calerin. C. Couperin. D. Molière. D. Molière. 3. World War I affected the writing of many authors. Which of the following poets would not have been touched by that event? A. Siegfried Sassoon. B. T.S. Eliot. C. Wilfred Owen. D. Oscar Wilde. D. Oscar Wilde. 4. This work was written before the other three choices. A. Bede's An Ecclesiastical History of the English People. B. Chaucer's Canterbury Tales. C. Julian of Norwich's Book of Showings. D. Sir Thomas More's Utopia. A. Bede's An Ecclesiastical History of the English People. 5. Which of the following literary sub-periods does not fall under the neoclassical period? A. The Augustan Age. B. Jacobean Age. C. The Restoration. D. The Age of Sensibility. B. Jacobean Age. 6. Historical events often influence literature. Which of the following did not occur during the Restoration period? A. The Great Fire of London. B. The French Revolution. C. Charles II was restored to the throne. D. The Exclusion Bill crisis. B. The French Revolution. 7. This work was not originally published in the 20th century. A. E.M. Forster's A Room with a View. B. Thomas Hardy's Tess of the D'Urbervilles. C. Henry James's The Ambassadors. D. Virginia Woolf's Mrs. Dalloway. B. Thomas
The video
Hardy's
is
Tess of the
made by
D'Urbervilles.
for
8.
Era.
Which work was completed last? A. John Milton's Paradise Lost. B. William Shakespeare's Tempest. C. George Herbert's The Temple. D. Ben Jonson's Volpone. A. John Milton's Paradise Lost. 9. Which of the following works was written before the all-important Battle of Hastings? A. Beowulf. B. The Doomsday Book. C. Canterbury Tales. D. Sons and Lovers. A. Beowulf. 10. In what language did Shakespeare write? A. German. B. Middle English. C. Old English. D. Modern English. D. Modern English. 11. Literary divisions are not always exact, but we draw them because they are often convenient. The majority of English literary periods are named after blank. A. The primary author of the age. B. Monarchs are political events. C. The leading characteristic of the age. D. The language of the age. B. Monarchs are political events. 12. One of these men did not write during the Restoration period. Who? A. Thomas Otway. B. John Milton. C. Sir Walter Scott. D. John Dryden. C. Sir Walter Scott. 13. Who write the storyteller? A. William Shakespeare. B. William Wordsworth. C. Thomas Gray. D. Sake. D. Sake. 14. Hymn to Adversity
The
is a
video
poem
is
by
made
blank.
by
A. Thomas Gray. B.
for
Edward
Era.
Gibbon. C. Alexander Pope. D. William Blake. A. Thomas Gray. 15. Who wrote the poem Requiem? A. Robert Louis Stevenson. B. Samuel Johnson. C. William Shakespeare. D. John Milton. A. Robert Louis Stevenson. 16. Who is the author of A Brief History of Time? A. Jagadish Chandra Basu. B. Stephen Hawking. C. Albert Einstein. D. Isaac Newton. B. Stephen Hawking. 17. What do you mean by quatrain? A. A stanza of 14 lines. B. A poem of 14 lines. C. A stanza of 6 lines. D. A stanza of 4 lines. D. A stanza of 4 lines. 18. Beauty is truth, truth is beauty, is stated by blank. A. Keats. B. Jane Austen. C. Shelley. D. Charles Lamb. A. Keats. 19. The Rape of the Lock is a blank. A. Parody. B. Romance. C. Elegy. D. Sonnet. A. Parody. 20. Of Human Bondage is written by blank. A. Somerset Maugham. B. W.B. Yeats. C. James Joyce. D. Philip Sidney. A. Somerset Maugham. 21. One of the following was a romantic poet blank. A. Arnold. B. Tennyson. C. Shelley. D. Browning. C. Shelley. 22. On Heroes and Hero Worship is written by blank. A. Ruskin. B. Carlyle.
The
C.
video is
Huxley.
made
D.
by
Mill.
for
B.
Era.
Carlyle. 23. James Joyce's famous novel blank. A. Tom Jones. B. Ulysses. C. Roots. D. Rebecca. B. Ulysses. 24. Who is the writer of The Charge of the Light Brigade? A. Christopher Marlowe. B. George Bernard Shaw. C. A. Lord Tennyson. D. William Shakespeare. C. A. Lord Tennyson. 25. Shirley, Jane Eyre, Villette were written by blank. A. J. Austen. B. E. Bronte. C. Bronte. D. None of these. C. Bronte. 26. Which one of the following writers is not woman? A. Jane Austen. B. Emily Bronte. C. Robert Browning. D. None of these. C. Robert Browning. 27. Which is called the Victorian Age blank? A. 20th century. B. 19th century. C. 18th century. D. None of these. B. 19th century. 28. Find the odd man out. A. Roxana, Daniel Defoe. B. Tom Jones, Henry Fielding. C. The Good Nature Man, Oliver Goldsmith. D. All for Love, John Milton. D. All for Love, John Milton. 28. The period of English literature from 1660 to the end of the century is called blank. A. Jacobean period. B. Renaissance. C. Restoration period. D. Romantic age. C. Restoration period. 29. Vanity Fair is a novel by blank. A. Scott. B. Thackeray. C. Dickens. D. Fielding. B. Thackeray. 30. What did Robert Frost's father do? A. Blacksmith. B. Journalist. C. Teacher. D.
The
Farmer.
video is made by Lit
B.
Light
Journalist.
for Era.
31. Thomas Hardy was brought up to the profession of blank. A. Architect. B. Sculptor. C. Engraver. D. None of these. A. Architect. 32. Who was a friend of John Milton? A. John Dryden. B. John Donne. C. Andrew Marvell. D. Alexander Pope. C. Andrew Marvell. 33. Who wrote Crime and Punishment? A. Tolstoy. B. Shelley. C. Byron. D. Dostoevsky. D. Dostoevsky. 34. In his poetry Tennyson is blank. A. The representative poet of Victorian age. B. The best nature poet. C. The representative poet of Romantic age. D. None of these. A. The representative poet of Victorian age. 35. Which book wins the 2013 Man Booker Prize blank? A. The Luminaries. B. The White Tiger. C. Wolf Hall. D. The Sea. A. The Luminaries. 36. Would you tell Sordello Browning as a blank? A. Tragic drama. B. Dramatic lyrics. C. Dramatic monologue. D. None of these. B. Dramatic lyrics. 37. Which one of the following is a comedy? A. All's Well That Ends Well. B. Timon of Athens. C. Hamlet. D. Antony and Cleopatra. A. All's Well That Ends Well. 38. From the 1st of January 2007, how many digits contains an ISBN, International Standard Book Number? A. 10. B. 9. C. 13. D. 15. C. 13. 39. Famous
video
romantic
is made
poets were
by
blank.
Lit
A. 4.
Light
B.
for
5.
Era.
C. 6. D. None of these. C. 6. 40. Who was more under the influence of Godwin's philosophy of life? A. Browning. B. Byron. C. Shelley. D. Keats. C. Shelley. 41. Keats' widespread appeal is to the reader's interest in the supernatural. A. True. B. False. C. Both of these. D. None of these. B. False. 42. Total number of sonnets written by Shakespeare _ blank. A. 163. B. 154. C. 102. D. 194. B. 154. 43. Who was American poet? A. Robert Frost. B. John Milton. C. John Keats. D. Robert Herrick. A. Robert Frost. 44. Who wrote Hard Times and A Tale of Two Cities? A. John Webster. B. Charles Dickens. C. John Milton. D. Daniel Defoe. B. Charles Dickens. 45. We find subjective elements in A. Shelley. B. Keats. C. Wordsworth. D. All. D. All. 46. Browning is famous for his blank. A. Narrative ballads. B. Dramatic monologues. C. Sensory images. D. Blank verse. B. Dramatic monologues. 47. Lycidas is
The
written by
video
blank.
is made by
A. Henry
Lit
Fielding.
Light
B.
for
Alexander
Era.
Pope. C. Thomas Hardy. D. John Milton. D. John Milton. 48. Poetry is defined as spontaneous overflow of powerful feeling by blank. A. Coleridge. B. Shelley. C. Wordsworth. D. None of these. C. Wordsworth. 49. Reading makes a full man, conference a ready man and writing an exact man, who told it? A. Shakespeare. B. Spenser. C. Chaucer. D. Bacon. D. Bacon. 50. April is the cruelest month of all is taken from Eliot's blank. A. The Wasteland. B. East Coker. C. The Hollow Men. D. Prufrock. A. The Wasteland.
Please subscribe and press bell icon.